Okay, hey everyone, thanks for coming. So in this session, we're going to be talking about the kind of playbook, if you like, for how you can build a profit-sharing community on the Arweave network and the tools you might use to do so. All right, so the idea here is to tell you the tools that you can use, and along the way, we'll be cutting in essentially with contributions from the founders of extra tools that run on top of the PermaWeb that you can use to make your profit sharing community more exciting, or well, essentially offer you a utility of some kind. So from scratch, the basic idea of a PermaWeb app is that it's typically built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's kind of like a web application, but it's decentralized. It's running on the PermaWeb. Yes, in order to do so, you can use all of your existing frameworks and tools from the JavaScript world. A couple of them need ever so slight tweaks. For example, React, you'll want to use the Arweave React starter kit that you can find just by Googling for it. But everything broadly just works as you'd expect for deploying a static website. So you can launch on Arweave using Arweave deploy, which you can get by saying npm install Arweave, which is pretty simple, or ArGo. So ArGo is a new deployment system, which itself is actually a profit-sharing community that just spun up in the last few months, and they're in alpha right now. I think they're on their 8th or 9th user at this point. Or you can just stick with Arweave deploy, which is a kind of, let's say, traditional route for doing this. So in order to get started, you'll want to grab a couple of Arweave tokens, and you can do this by going to tokens.arweave.org, where there's a pipeline that allows you to claim a free token, which you can use to store your website. If you run out, obviously you can just go to any kind of crypto exchange, like Huobi is probably the largest one right now, but also Bittrex and a whole bunch of other exchanges that list Arweave. You really don't need very many tokens in order to deploy on the PermaWeb. It's about 0.5 cents per megabyte to store data. Okay, so once you've got a static application deployed onto the PermaWeb, you can access information from Arweave itself and send transactions to the network using a library called Arweave.js. Arweave.js is super simple. You can just create transactions and deploy them to the network by saying create tx, and then adding the attributes you need, and then sending with, I think it's push or something like this. But all of the information you need in order to be able to use Arweave.js available at docs.arweave.org. These are super simple things to get started with. Most people can actually add an integration using Arweave.js to store a piece of data from their normal application or like existing application in just like half an hour or something. It's very, very easy to get started with. One thing to note is that transactions inside Arweave are very, very, let's say, flexible. So a transaction on Arweave can have an optional recipient. You can be sending it to someone, but you don't have to be. You can also have optional arbitrary transaction metadata, like tags. So you can say the content type for this transaction is text/HTML, for example, if you would like a browser to render it as HTML if it's served from a gateway. You can also give an optional data segment. But all of this stuff is flexible. You don't have to provide any. You can provide it if you like. You can, for example, have transactions that just have tags and nothing else, or you can have transactions that just have a recipient, and so on. You can also, of course, send tokens around, Arweave tokens, and you just say a quantity. One thing to note is once you sign the transaction, at that moment, you'll also calculate the cost for transmitting the transaction to the network. But Arweave.js docs take you through, Arweave.js docs take you through all of this stuff. So once you're sending transactions to the network, for example, if you're building a decentralized blogging platform or something like this, or a decentralized social network, or even, I know, a decentralized app store, you're sending a transaction that contains the payload, so the tweet, the blog post, or the APK or whatever it is to allow you to install the application. As part of a transaction, you've got some metadata that says this is a transaction that associates with the app name and then the name of your app. And you can say it's for this application or it's for this blog or whatever it happens to be. And it uses these meta tags. And then you can query this data through GraphQL. And the community member, the Lone Ronin, has very helpfully built a new system of documentation that also allows you to live kind of test GraphQL queries. So you can very easily learn about how to do this. But this is essentially just as flexible, if not more flexible, than a typical SQL database, and you can do that with the Arweave itself. So you store the web application on Arweave, then you also store the information that you want to be held permanently on Arweave, then you can query it using GraphQL inside that application itself. And there's lots of examples of this if you want to kind of get into what it looks like in practice. Just go to arweave.org or ask in the Discord server for people's favorites. So, okay, perfect. Now you've got yourself a PermaWeb app. What you need to do next is make sure that when you are interacting with the application at the appropriate moments for the kind of business model you're creating, you're sending tips to the profit-sharing token holders. And profit-sharing tokens we'll get into a little bit more in a second, but broadly the idea is we're going to have a cap table, which people can purchase or buy and sell, essentially, a piece of. And then when it comes time to send a tip, you pick from the list of people on the cap table in a weighted manner. And there's a utility function in SmartWeave for this is, I think, select weighted member or something like this from the profit-sharing token holders to send a tip to. So, for example, if I own 1% of the profit-sharing tokens, in general, I should receive 1% of the tips. And we might send a tip, for example, when the user is sending that blog post or uploading their application. And this means that now we have this asset, this profit-sharing token, which holding allows you to accrue tips from the usage of the application. So as long as the usage of the application continues, you just continue to accrue revenue through holding this asset. So in order to create that asset in the first place, you're probably going to want to use community XYZ. And this is how you found the profit-sharing community, which if you're from the Ethereum space, you can think of sort of like a decentralized autonomous organization or a DAO. But if you're not from the Ethereum space, you can think of this basically as a kind of lightweight company in code. So it's a governance mechanism that allows you to control the issuing of new assets, so printing of new tokens, in reward for people providing valuable resources of value to the application itself. So for example, if you're building this blogging application, if someone comes along and they're like, hey, you've got a great blogging application there, but I'd love if it had comments on every page. If you give me 0.5% of the tokens in your application, I'll build that comment section for you. And so then the community can vote on the issuance of new tokens to reward people for building extra features that add to the value, kind of increasing the size of the pie, if you like, of the profit-sharing community. And now we're going to have Cedric, the founder of Community XYZ, take us through how Community XYZ works. Cedric.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Cedric. I'm developer advocate at Arweave for the new members. So if you have issues or you need any help related to Arweave or even with community, you can talk to me and I'll be able to help or to point you to the right direction at least. Let me share my screen. So yeah, Community XYZ is the platform where you go to create your community in the first place. As Sam mentioned, we have a few details here, but Sam mentioned pretty much all of them. So it's run on top of Arweave, so it's use the SmartWeave contracts. And you can use Community.js to interact directly from your platform or from your projects with your community. You can create a community by going here. Let me show you a little bit how it works to create the community. It's quite simple. So let me choose one of my wallets. OK, perfect. So you have your community name. Say we will call it test. A community logo. Here you can use an Arweave transaction ID, or you can just drag and drop your logo. For now, I'm not going to add any of, because I don't have one for this. And you can see details for each of the fields that we request. A link, I'm not going to add one either. Let me add a little description. And then the token will be called ASDF. This is your token ticker. I forgot to take an address, so let me take this address. Yeah. Okay, so these are your token holders. To begin with, you can start with just one address, for example, yours, and then you can start adding others with votes inside of your community. Or you can add more holders by clicking the plus sign here and just keep adding addresses and the balances that you want each token holder to have. As I mentioned, you have here the little question mark that will help you understand what support means, quorum, vote length, minimum length, and maximum length for your community. Some of these fields can be updated when you create your community, so with a vote. But a few of them, you cannot change them. So you need to make sure that the first time you have something that makes sense for your community. If not, you will need to recreate a new community. We'll keep it like that. Yeah, at any time you can go back and just review and make sure everything looks right. You can also see here, just to make sure everything is correct before launching your community, and then you can type launch community. You can click launch community, and you need to wait it for it to be mined. A community is just like any other Arweave transaction, so it goes right onto the network and it creates your community using SmartWeave. And this is the community when you have it created. This is the dashboard of your community. So here you are able to vote and to interact with the entire community that you have just created. You have the list of your token holders, so your community members, and you can see which member have locked tokens in their vault, the balances, and pretty much everything related to the community that you created. You have the votes, so the voting platform. You can mint new tokens. You can burn Volt. Sorry, you can burn Volt. You can set different things. For example, the quorum and support, minimum log length, maximum log length. You can change the description, the URL, the community logo, the discussion links, and more. You can also set custom key values for your community that you will be using, for example, on your own project on the website when you interact with community.js. And you have indicative votes, which are just to set a note or to say something to the community. Let's say I want to pay out someone, but before even creating the mint vote, I need to create in fact, you need to lock tokens before you are able to vote on each community. So here you are able to lock them. You are able to unlock your vaults when the time has ended. So for now, for me, I'm not able to unlock the vault, so this won't do anything. And you have also the opportunities. The opportunities is something not new, but we didn't talk about it during the Open Web Incubator program. It was created after that. But the opportunities is the platform, the place where Sam was saying you can give away some of your tokens in exchange of work that someone will do to help out your project. So to build something new, to create a new, let's say a new web page or a new design for your page or text or anything like that. So you can go here and see all the opportunities also. Right here where on my opportunities page, I just see mine because I'm on this community itself. But you can go to the opportunities page and then you can see all the opportunities. We did a new change that the communities are able now to have their own logos and the description and all of that started this Friday. So that's why you still see a few of the opportunities here. Well, pretty much all of them that don't have logos yet, but then you will have the little logos. You can click on them and learn more about it. You can contact the creator of that opportunity if you have any questions via Weavemail, and you can also apply. So this is pretty much what Community XYZ is and how it works. After that, after you created your community, then you have your project, your website, similar to what Tate, Phil, and all of the other community members have right now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Cedric. Yeah, it's really exciting to see how Community XYZ is evolving and kind of becoming a hub for all the profit sharing communities. So now it contains details about how, what the community is, the logo, and also links to their Discord servers and this kind of thing, which is really exciting to see. I think there's a lot of development that can happen there. Sorry,
yeah, for sure. I wanted to say also thanks everyone from the community itself, from Arweave, that help out with their feedback and their information, because it has been really, really helpful. So thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you, Cedric. It's an amazing thing to build. Okay, so we'll just share my screen again. Yes. Oh, and hopefully in the wrong order. Okay, so next up is dgit.sh. Dgit's a really exciting project. It essentially allows you to store your the code for your profit sharing community and indeed any other Git repository in a permanent and decentralized way on top of Arweave. And I'm very proud to say that they are actually launching today. So please, dgit, can you take it away?
Hey, thanks, Sam, for the introduction. 1 second, let me share my screen. Am I audible?
Yep, audible and visible.
Yes. So we are dgit, and what we are trying to do is like, so currently there are a lot of crypto projects, and still we rely on centralized code hosting solutions. So what we are trying to address here is basically a decentralized code hosting solution where you can store your code, and you can even the workflows are like fit to address the concerns which let me actually walk through the demo first. So this is our redesigned web app. So for a hackathon, we actually started building dgit during the Open Web Incubator hackathon, but that was just a proof of concept solution. And this is a redesigned web app. And you log in with your Arweave key file. So these are your repositories, and you can create new repositories like this. Okay. And I'll show you already pushed repository. Okay. So this is basically our Git remote helper, which we already pushed here, and you can browse through the code. So majority of work in like past 1 month has been to optimize the front-end app, because in order to scale with, work with huge repositories where you have thousands of objects, we had to like do lazy loading of objects, and also now you can actually see it's like really fast. You won't even know that. This is a sample one, but it's very smooth. You won't, even though we are using Arweave gateways and all, like it's very smooth, and you can see commits. The comments. So actually, we are planning to do a release today, but due to some issues, we are not able to push that. That's why like it's in like half of that state. So sorry for that. Okay, so I'll show you how to clone that. So in order to use dgit, you don't have to install any other client and all. You just works seemingly with Git client itself. You just have to install our Git remote helper, which interfaces with Arweave gateway. So here, see git. I am cloning git. Sorry, wait. I think there's some issue. I mean, we are facing right now. That's why I don't know. Sorry for. I mean, this.
No worries. The demo
I
gods
mean,
are.
like we're planning for a launch, so we had to do a lot. I'll just show a push workflow here. So I'll try to push our code repo itself. Basically, I'm just adding a new remote. Git push and dgit. So as you can see, missing Arweave wallet part. So only requirement for pushing is you have to like give the path, because you need to like spend AR tokens to push code. Whereas in case of cloning fetching, it's free, so you don't even have to have a Arweave wallet to clone a repo from dgit. So I'm setting the Arweave wallet path, and now I'll push it. So this is a fairly like decent, I mean, huge repo. You can see it's close to 8,000 objects. So this will take, I think, close to 20 minutes. But we have optimized well, like within our abilities. So I mean, this is really good enough. But all the incremental updates will be like seamless. You won't have to like, this is just the entire code base. That's why it will take this much time. So. So I mean, like, sorry, I couldn't give a proper demo because like we were in the process of releasing, and like we faced a couple of issues. But we are planning to do a release this week. I mean, we have figured out like most of the pain points, especially pushing a lot of Git objects. But the next thing which we are going to focus on is we are basically going to introduce DAO on these repos. So even the decision making, like repository access or even the pull request, all these mergers will be done transparently by the stakeholders of that token. So
Yeah,
I think, Sam, I think that's it. I don't
that's
have
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, and congratulations on the launch later this week.
Yeah.
The demo god's not quite with you there, but like pushing 8,000 objects like that is actually quite a lot. If I recall correctly, Git is not very fast at doing that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But the basic principle of pushing and pulling code from a decentralized permanent repository like that is really quite incredible. And the next layer up, which is that now or soon you'll be able to adjudicate how that repository works using your profit sharing community itself. So the stakeholders in the profit sharing community will be able to vote on which pull requests are merged and this kind of thing. That's absolutely incredible. That's really exciting. It removes one of the fundamental points of centralization in the crypto space. You know, no one ever talks about it, but actually the code that the miners run on their machines in general, and the code that is deployed for smart contracts is like the #1 point of centralization left, I think. And you guys are attacking it like full force. It's really incredible to see. So very excited to follow up on that later this week, I guess, guys. All right, so. Okay, great. So you have your profit sharing token in place with Community XYZ. You've deployed your application with Arweave deploy or ArGo, and ArGo have just joined us, so they'll be able to give a demo later in the talk. And now you have your application that's working. You have some ownership of it, and you would like to give some kind of adoption rewards. You would like to seed the market in some sense with some tokens that can be free floating and traded. Well, there's actually a way of doing this, thanks to Tate and the team from Verto building a new project that they're calling Astatine, if I'm getting the pronunciation correct there. Yeah, Tate, can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Of course, yeah. Thanks, Sam. We're still working on the name, so no worries on that. But yeah, so basically, Astatine or Astatine is a way for new profit sharing communities to distribute their to seed their markets with their tokens. So one thing that we discovered with building Verto was that we needed to build something that allows us to seed the market, and get some liquidity flowing through the exchange. And the easiest method that we discovered of doing this was by giving the tokens out. It was also the least controversial with the law, and so that's kind of how Astatine got started. And basically, what it is it's a GitHub repo that you can fork with a GitHub action. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to configure some variables in the repository and automatically distribute tokens to a set criteria of people over time. So we have different slopes that you can use for distribution curves. We're working on an exponential. We have a linear setup, and yeah, that basically we're doing it through GitHub with a GitHub action so that people don't have to run dedicated infrastructure if they don't want to. If they just want to clone it, get it online super quick. But we're really excited because we think that it has a lot of potential in terms of being its own profit sharing community. Because people that use this service they could choose to build the people that build the service could choose to create a profit sharing community out of it. And so whenever the distributor is being used, the users could decide to give a tip to the profit sharing community behind Astatine whenever profit sharing tokens are distributed. That's a lot of words.
Yeah, well, we get the broad point, which is just like, so you can use this thing to distribute rewards to people using your application. It's kind of like app mining in a way, right? So usage mining, really. It's almost taking a leaf out of DeFi, actually. A lot of the staking mechanics that we saw over the summer are kind of related to this process you're describing, except it's now applied to Web3 applications. Is that a fair assessment?
I would definitely say so, yes.
Okay, awesome. And one thing to note, and Tate, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are kind of looking for a founder to take this project on from you guys, right? So you're working on Verto, and you have too much on your plate, so there's an opening here.
Exactly, yes. That's why I was kind of referring to the developer's part in third person, because we're hoping to be able to give this to somebody to contribute to continue developing.
Awesome. So this is like a kind of centralized version you can run on GitHub action to get started, but then you can, of course, decentralize it, which is the next step, and we're looking for, well, you guys are looking for someone else from the community that might want to take that on and then turn it into a full profit sharing community, which that founder can own a large portion of the tokens from and yeah, essentially profit from the development of. Am I summarizing correctly?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, amazing. So great. Now you've got your profit sharing community. It's out there. People are starting to use the application. You're giving rewards to them. That's great. But now I guess the community kind of needs somewhere that they can trade those tokens, right? Maybe you could also tell us about that, Tate.
Sure, happy to. All right, let me share my screen really quick. Okay, so yeah, we're also working on Verto, which is a decentralized profit sharing token exchange built on top of Arweave. So Verto itself is powered by a network of trading posts, which allows the whole matchmaking algorithms behind matching these trades to be decentralized. So in order to hold these trading posts accountable, they must have staked Vert, Vert is our own profit sharing community built into the exchange. And Vert allows them to, well, specifically staked Vert allows them to be held accountable. So if they act maliciously, the DAO can choose to slash their stake, remove them from the exchange. and they'll, they're incentivized not to have that happen. But yeah, so trading posts can also receive tips. They get to choose the percentage of the tip that they charge on, any trade that it goes through their trading post, which we think is a really powerful mechanism because it kind of allows trading posts to compete between the reputation and the tip amount. So higher trading posts with higher reputations will be able to charge more for tips because you can trust it more. And vice versa for less reputable trading posts. But yeah, so the reputations kind of drive competition on the platform, which is, this is a pretty exciting concept that we hadn't thought about previously when we first got into working on this. But basically, the trading posts with the higher reputations get to not only have a stronger say in the DAO, but also they're likely to get more volume in terms of being traded because of their higher reputation. And yes, so they also, as I mentioned before with staking Verdo tokens, they have incentives to act appropriately and not run away with everybody's money. So yeah, we're really excited about that. Next, so specifically, I want to talk a bit more about growing your own profit sharing community on top of this new ecosystem. So Verdo itself provides two tools that you can use to integrate Verdo functionality into your own applications, which in turn will help grow the activity of your token because you're going to be able to trade your token on the exchange. So first off, statistics. I gave a little bit of a demo on this before, I believe, but statistics allows you to embed price and volume graphs into your own website. You can use it for any profit sharing token, even if it's not currently being traded on the exchange, though you wouldn't have much to display if you didn't have any trades. But anyhow, the statistics are also deployed to the PermaWeb, so you don't have to rely on Verdo.exchange being there if you don't want to. And yeah, so you can access it through the GitHub right there. And next is our library. This is something that, we think has a lot of potential in terms of helping people grow and get activity on their profit sharing communities because you can integrate functionality with trading through Verdo in 3 lines of code. So this is, this is going to allow people to embed things on their website that allow you to purchase Verdo tokens straight through the website. Super nice user experiences can be built with this tool. And this also opens a new revenue stream for profit sharing communities and the developers of these communities. So you can even decide to take a tip on the trades initiated through your PermaWeb app, which basically means that whenever somebody goes to your website to make a trade or to purchase your token or to sell your token, you can take a tip of that. And this is allowing, profit sharing communities themselves to make profits off of what we've built, which we're really excited about because we're just, we're trying to go full circle here and help the profit sharing communities out because they're helping us out by allowing their tokens to be traded on our platform. And so, yeah, you can feel free to get in touch with us if you'd like to chat a little bit more about this. You can find me on Discord, Tate or John Letty if you'd like. And yeah, thanks, Sam.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tate. Yeah, I think Verto.js is a really exciting project, not just so for example, Cedric, who's building Community XYZ, I know he's very excited about adding the ability to just buy and sell bits of profit-sharing communities while you're browsing around Community XYZ. Like if you see one that you find interesting, just make it so that people can buy a little bit of it. That's really, really very exciting. But then on top of that, you're kind of opening up a whole new realm of applications where you're basically allowing people to buy and sell pieces of in-app revenue streams. So we're already seeing this play out with Bandplay and ArcLight that are experimenting with this with music. The idea being that, if you publish a an album, you can then create a PST for that album, and the uploader can then buy and sell, presumably sell to begin with, some of the access to royalties from people tipping that album just right from inside the app itself. And you could very easily see how this allows for almost, what would you call it? Monetization of many, many different streams of revenue in applications. So another one would be, for example, if you have a decentralized application store, you can then just say, hey, well, if people want to buy the full version, they have to tip a profit-sharing community, and when they do, or tip a profit-sharing token rather, and when they do so, they're just distributing that profit to the people that have bought and sold that token. And of course, you can do that from inside the app using like 3 lines of code with Verto.js. So this just opens up an unbelievable number of pathways that we never really thought were possible. I would say like this was just not in the realm of what we were thinking about in the ecosystem just like 3 or 4 months ago. So it's absolutely incredible to see this like live in the wild.
Thanks, Sam.
Amazing. Thanks, Tate. All right. So great. We've got a profit sharing community. We've got our web application. It's maybe sharing some profit streams, but potentially you're working with users from or user-generated content. And one of the big problems that we're seeing on the centralized web nowadays is that the web essentially has no, that's not very helpful, the web essentially has no Sybil resistance. So when you go to Twitter, you see like a whole bunch of people talking, but it's very, very difficult for you to see the difference between what is a real human and what's a robot. And the PermaWeb kind of sets out to solve one of these problems. It says, okay, well, someone's identity should be implicitly linked, or explicitly linked, actually, with their other their other activity across different applications in the ecosystem. So when I'm a token holder of Verto, for example, and I take part in votes on community XYZ, and then I go to, I don't know, FeedWeave, where I'm sharing my opinions on my blog, you should be able to see that these two pieces of activity are linked together. And this is obviously by a pseudonym, so it's not de-anonymizing, but it is allowing you to see that there's an identity that is doing these things. And of course, you can create new pseudonyms if you want. So this is kind of cool. This is baked into the PermaWeb itself. But Fabian, fortunately, from AR Verify has taken this a step further, and he's looking at what if we could get essentially the kind of equivalent of a blue tick for the entire web, not just for Twitter, and have it be trustable. So Fabian, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and how developers can get started using it.
Hi guys. So I'm the developer of Arweave. Thank you, Sam, for the introduction. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Here we go. Can anyone just? Yeah, great. Let's go to. So. As I said, I'm the developer of Arweave. It's essentially going to be like the blue tick for the whole, like for every PermaWeb or for every application inside Arweave. And it will increase the trust from one user to another, because you then really know that you are working with a verified user who's not like a scammer or just a machine. So you know that this address is really verified. This is the current UI. You just sign in with your wallet. You will see your address, your balance, and you will see the red circle. So the current user is unverified. He then simply clicks onto the circle, and then he will get into this process. So he will have to wait a time for the transaction to process, and after that he's verified in the whole ecosystem. So you just have to verify once. And the current verification process is with a Google sign-in, but there will be more features for signing in with multiple accounts to really like increase the trust that this user really is a human and not any spam email or something else. So how's the whole workflow? The user tips to the community. This is implemented inside of the UI, so you don't have to do anything. You just click the button and everything will run in the backend. So the user tips to the community. Then the auth node checks for the tip, then returns a sign-in URL for the user. The user then signs in. Currently, this is the Google OAuth implementation, so you just sign in with your Gmail account. And then the auth node you tip to receives then a callback and then sends a verification transaction, so the whole ecosystem knows that this address is now verified. And this is everything is like pseudonymous, so there's no email stored with your address or no username stored. It's just stored that this address has been verified by one of our auth nodes. So the features for the library, you can just install it with, or you will be able to install it with npm. It's just very easy. It's the blue tick for the PermaWeb. So there will be a function to just say, okay, give this address a blue tick if it's verified. As simple as that. And you can just check if an address is verified. So you could do some login bound or feature bound things to verification. So you could, for example, say on Virtual, you can just trade if this user is verified. Or you can just log into our application if this user is verified, or something like this. So really, if you want to make sure that they are like real humans or verified humans are creating your content or doing your transactions. So then there's the community, which is a big part around this, because Arweave is more of a core service, which will be implemented in other applications. So everyone who's hosting an auth node is bound to a stake to ensure that he's doing a good job. Because if he's doing any malicious action, he can be just slashed out of the community. Then the community votes on the verification fee. As Cedric showed, you can set your custom key value pairs. So you can vote on any fees that the user have to pay for verification. Then there will be a referral system, which works like this. If you are building your application and you want to have a verified user and the user is not verified, you can refer him to Arweave. And when the user then tips, you will receive some part of this tips or some part of the community token. So as more people are going to use Arweave, the more the whole community will be distributed to different projects. And of course, there will be opportunities on Community XYZ, because currently I'm just developing this alone, but I'm looking for help on building out the service a little bit more. Hosting an auth node is essentially very easy. You just go to the GitHub link, arweave/auth node. And the auth node, it's just a Python server. You can run it with a Docker file. I've created a Docker file, just build it and deploy it, and you're good to go. You will need some environment variables. You can get in touch with me there, just on Discord. And yeah, then you're ready to go and start your own auth node. And basically that's it. That's an overview of the implementation of profit sharing community and basically the usage of Arweave. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Fabian. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how that basic structure of user stakes tokens, or rather, some kind of node operators take some tokens, they get some rewards from people using the service, or potentially just even mining rewards, like with Astatine, potentially over time. Yeah, and it's incredible to see how far that basic method can go. And so now here you can like stake some tokens, run an auth node, people use your service, you gain tips, you also earn tips from kind of mining essentially, while running the node in our verified tokens. Yeah, and then you're essentially just making money running software. But the really interesting part is that there's no necessity to run any or build these things in any specific language. So you're using Python, but Tate is building a similar architecture, and he's using JavaScript, or is it denotate?
It is Node, JavaScript.
Oh, it's Node. Okay, yeah. So, but what's fascinating is that there's just no enforcement of the programming language there at all. So you can just use all your normal tools. I think over time that's going to play as like a really powerful thing for the ecosystem. So thank you very much, Fabian. It's really exciting to see, and we can also see how that auth node structure can be expanded so that we can cover extra things, like potentially even KYC docs and this type of level of verification that the person you're speaking to is a human.
Or even doing the opposite. Instead of verifying users, you could even like report users and say, well, there has been some malicious action on this user. So you could even like do exactly the same process on the other side. But I think this will need some more implementation of the whole verify for the current state. So just to get it to really get the trust out of it. Yeah.
That's super interesting. And then you just use the DAO to adjudicate this stuff and slash the appropriate stakes and maintain them and issue rewards. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks.
Okay, so great. Now we have a Twitter replacement with trustable users or whatever it happens to be, but maybe they want to upload some data. Well, thankfully, Phil from ArDrive has been working with a couple of other community members to build an initiative they're calling ARFS, or is this supposed to be ARFS, Phil?
That's what I say every time I read it, in my head at least. ARFS.
Okay, got it. Can you tell us about how ARFS work?
Sure can, Sam. Let me share my screen. Before we get into ARFS, just to level set everyone on what ArDrive is, but we're a suite of applications that aim to give everyone secure, decentralized, pay-as-you-go, censorship-resistant, permanent storage, right, for anyone, because we think anyone or everyone has data that might need that storage that lasts forever. And we think that ArDrive can maybe help you guys out in your new communities in a couple different ways. So first is really just storing your data, right? And I'm calling that an ecosystem-first way of storing and sharing your files. We're building on Arweave. It makes sense to store our data on Arweave, I think. So ArDrive is a great way to do that. And then as well as the Arweave file system, or ARFS, which is really a way to tag the data and encrypt the data to hopefully build a more open and discoverable PermaWeb. We'll get into the details of that. But really, ArDrive it's a file sharing app, so it's easy to just take an Arweave wallet, plug it in, and use it to really upload any kind of data to the PermaWeb. I know there's a lot of apps that are, looking at making nice photos or music apps, things like that. So all those kinds of applications need a way to get their data up to the PermaWeb. ArDrive is an easy way to do that, whether it's a bunch of small files or really big files. I know the Chrome browser has its limits sometimes. That data, if it's private, you can encrypt it using our Arweave FS encryption schema. So that'll use your key, your Arweave wallet key, as well as a strong password that you define. And then ArDrive is just great for just sharing things, whether it's PDFs, presentations, documents. A lot of the things I present now are things right from the PermaWeb itself. And I just think it looks good, right? If we're trying to show our PermaWeb applications, why not show data being served from the PermaWeb as well? And ArDrive is just a really easy way to do that. But now, if you really want to take it a step further, you could look at introducing the Arweave file system into your application as well. And we saw this as kind of a necessity of really trying to deal with the immutable nature of Arweave. Obviously, you can't delete things. So when you are trying to synchronize files from a local file system where you can delete things, you need an easy way to kind of translate that data. So we put together a data model called Arweave file system, which does support those traditional file system operations like creating new files, folders, renaming them, moving them, updating them to different versions. And it does that by actually separating those files into what we call different entities to store that file system state on Arweave. And those entities actually have their data split between Arweave tags that you could surface through GraphQL, as well as a JSON file that we upload as part of the data in the transaction itself. And then we also separate the data model into private and public. At least as part of ArDrive's mission, we want to give the user the most secure encryption possible, so we had to bake that into the file system as well. So it's really easy to distinguish between private data, private drives, folders, files, versus public. And we feel we picked kind of the best-in-class encryption mechanism today. That's also included in our standard. Let's maybe just take a couple quick looks at what the tagging schema looks like. So here's just an example of a public drive, right? So that's kind of the root object. But you see here, there's going to be a few different transactions created. So the public drive is going to keep some of the basic drive metadata, like the version of Arweave file system or the actual ID, the privacy of the drive. And then, of course, the name and the root folder ID, because every drive also has what we call a root folder, which is essentially just a folder with no parent folder. And that also has the name to it. So every drive you create, you can use name to. Those drives can have subfolders and files. So we have a schema for a folder transaction. And that folder transaction has basic information about the folder identity, what drive it belongs to, the timestamp, as well as the folder name. And then we have our actual file transactions, and that's split between the file metadata and the file data itself. This is so we can allow things like renames and moves without having to re-upload the whole file. So if you moved a file from one subfolder to another, we just update the metadata as needed. And again, that metadata includes things like the file ID, its parent folder, the content type, and the timestamp, as well as information about the file that it's referencing, because those transactions are separated. So the metadata transaction has the file name and size, the file's actual data transaction and content type. And that's how we reference the actual file data. You see here for a private drive, the schema is mostly similar, but we do include some additional information around the cipher that we use, AES 256 GCM, as well as the initiation or initialization vector. That's what you need to decrypt any of this data. So what we've done in our standard, which if you'd like to read more about, please check it out on our GitHub. But we kind of defined this taxonomy as well as how you encrypt and decrypt this data. So really what we envision is people uploading their files through our drive and getting surfaced through any other application that uses the Arweave file system. And then conversely, if people are going to the PhotoBook app and uploading their photos there, if we're all sharing that same Arweave file system, you can easily download those photos into your R drive. So please check it out. Let us know what you think. We have lots of code as well. If you want to see how we reference the file system, we've linked it all here, whether it's JavaScript or our Dart libraries. Feel free to take a look. Or you can help join us and build it together. We have lots of positions open. We talked about this last week, but I just wanted to put it out there as well. And then finally, if you wanted to talk about the file system, see improvements or having issues integrating it, just join our Discord, and we'd love to talk to you guys and see what other cool ideas you may be doing with it. And that's it for now.
Wow. Thanks, Phil. That's really an amazing piece of work. It's so exciting to see, I guess, how we're going to be able to integrate this with a whole bunch of different applications. I'm reminded of, for example, PermaSnap, which Ross McMahon, sorry, I hope I got your name right. Ross from the community has built this PermaSnap project that the Arca DAO funded. And you can just see how you can integrate ARFs into this, and then suddenly when you're on your phone and you're uploading snaps, which are live and they're permanent, so they're sensitive resistant and so on, which can be very useful if you're in, for example, a protest situation. They're also syncing to your desktop via R drives and the open ARFs standard. So that's just so cool. You can see this fitting into basically everything where the user is uploading any kind of data. Even, you could see it going as far as blog posts. So when you're uploading to a blogging service, wouldn't it be nice if you could just like sync a directory on your laptop, and then boom, you have all of your blog posts locally? That'd be incredible.
Yeah, interesting concept, Sam.
But like, it just opens up so many different options. So it's really exciting to see, see that playing out. Okay, thanks so much, Phil. All right. Okay, so I'm not going to go through it now. You've got so many features in your application. But one of the things you've seen so far is that everyone here has been using drag and drop key file login, which has been, I would say, the scourge of the Arweave community since we launched the PermaWeb, like 18 months ago now. I'm very excited to say that there are a couple of founders in the ecosystem now building alternates to this system that allow you to just log in with username and password. And one of those founders from WeaveID is with us today. Hey, WeaveID, can you give us an outline?
Hey guys, this is Sina from WeaveID.
Hey.
Really cool seeing all your presentations. I wanted to just take a second to share WeaveID. It's a project I started during the last Open Web Incubator, along with some of you. So basically the idea is we want to make a wallet that is sort of cloud hosted but decentralized at the same time. And people can easily use this to interact with dApps built on Arweave. So the idea is you no longer have to drag in your key file, which is kind of a troublesome UI pattern, especially on mobile. So that's the first step of what we're trying to accomplish. And then from there, we can kind of roll it into adding more features, like adding, sign in with Google and integration with everyone else's apps. So why don't I share my screen right now and show you guys a little bit of what it looks like. It's not too far off from what you may have seen before during my last presentation, if you can see my screen. So the idea is any app, no matter what it looks like, it would have this lightbox modal pop-up, and you could sign in with whatever email you want. So I could go blah 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 blah, and basically what it does is it generates a new Arweave wallet, and then it converts that to a string, and then it encrypts it with AES CBC for the time being, and then it writes, or then it base 64s the encrypted text, and then it writes that to Arweave using Arweave.js. So basically, we store an encrypted version of your wallet on the blockchain, and then next time you try to log in, we basically retrieve that, decrypt it using the password you entered, and then voila, you have your wallet. So this is basically where we're at right now. We've been kind of starting on the UI now that we have the encryption and the writing to Arweave and the fetching all working. So I'm pretty excited about kind of under the hood, getting everything working and connected. And now we're going to work on some of the more polish that we've kind of promised. So that would be, basically adding, integrations and UI polish and OAuth login with social. So yeah, we're pretty excited. Here's what I just recently realized is that to add Weave ID to your app, I had made it so that all you need to do is add one line of HTML to include this JavaScript embed. But I was going through your guys' projects on GitHub and seeing if I could get this whipped up in time for this presentation in Community XYZ or Weave or any one of the other projects. I noticed a lot of you guys use React. So I think that's one of the main things I'm going to try to focus on very short term, like in the next week or two, is to get an NPM style module release that could work in React projects, because this type of including I don't think would work in that instance, and I want everyone to be able to tap into this and really just drop it in and not have to kind of go through your code and restructure things. So Cedric, I'm going to be reaching out to you of maybe the best way we can kind of get this integrated, because it's working now, and just seeing all your guys' presentations got me so excited. I'm ready. Let's do this.
Fighting words. Amazing. Yeah, it's fantastic to see how that's come on recently. I'd say that demo was what, like 10x the speed up from the last one.
Yeah, it was taking about like a minute to log in before. It was very scary.
Even faster than 10 then.
Yeah, I talked to the Arweave team, and they gave me just a bunch of different ideas, and I kind of had to go back to the drawing board and try them all out and kind of weigh the pros and cons. But this seems like a great model, at least to start with, and all the stuff that comes along with keeping things on Arweave and whatnot, that can all be managed through the DAO on Community XYZ. So because of that, for example, like we take a percentage fee of like I believe right now it's 0.1%, maxed at around $2 per transaction. And if people feel like maybe that's too much or too little or whatever, they can vote in the community to change that. So yeah, we're really about decentralization and keeping everything for the community.
That's incredible. I think that you're going to get an awful lot of pickup of that as soon as you start talking to people, because everybody hates this damn dropping your key file thing. That's fantastic to see. I'd love to catch up with you afterwards. I have like some thoughts on how we can like kind of manage adoption from the rest of the ecosystem. But
great.
Last but not least, thanks so much. Prashant is here to talk to us from ArGo. And ArGo I referenced at the beginning of the talk, but Prashant, you can kind of give us, I guess, an overview of what it is and how it might fit into the whole workflow.
Sure, Sam. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to present ArGo. So I don't have a deck today because I just wanted to walk you guys through the entire ArGo app itself. So ArGo is all about deploying your entire web application on top of Arweave. So let's say I have a React app and I want to deploy it on the PermaWeb. How exactly I'm going to do that? So currently, as a user, you have to download deploy dir, Arweave dir, and then you have to go ahead and deploy everything. And the problem with that is like, even though if you want to find out which version of your web application has been deployed when, and whatnot. There are many things which we provide in the ArGo side. So there are a couple of things which was missing on the side of deploy directly using the deploy directly. So what we did is like we customized it a little bit, and then we have written a wrapper around it so that for even a normal user, normal developer who is not from the blockchain community, and even the people from the Web 2.0, they can directly come on PermaWeb and they can start deploying their app. So I just do not want to delay on that part. I just wanted to demo that. Let me know once you guys see my screen.
We do.
Awesome. So so this is the ArGo UI. It looks like. So thanks to Islander, he came at the last moment and helped us out in designing the entire UI. It tells most of the things here. So it tells what we support currently. Currently, we support React as a deployment part. And if you guys have a free time, we have a site, argoapp.live. It is live now. You can go and check it out. So what I'll do is like we have integrated social login as of now, which is of GitHub. In our coming releases, you might be seeing GitLab as well. So as a user, just come into the ArGo app live, type your GitHub repository details here. What it does, it logs you into the ArGo UI, which has all things which you need for your application deployment. So let's say what I'll do is like since we commit, we do two-click deployment. So what you have to say, you go into deploy, select your organization or your repos, whatever it is. So make sure currently we support only React, but going forward, definitely we are coming up with a lot more. So stay tuned on our ArGo Discord channel. We'll be updating it there. So let's say I want to deploy my React app. What I have to do is just come here. It's the same command which we have. So we also support yarn and npm as a package manager. So let's say I am using npm and then npm run build, which is my build command, which has been written in my package.json. And in the package.json, it also provides the which particular field, which directory it's going to be deploying. So what you have to do is just click on deploy. And the magic is what we do is on the background of the server, which we have hosted our node, it spin up your entire container altogether and does the entire job into the container. So we make sure even the private repositories which we are going to deploy here, those are being too much private, so that we do not expose it to the real world directly. So it happens on the container, and the moment container exits, it also cleans the container out from the entire our ecosystem as well, and it happens on the runtime. So we don't store anything. So once your deployment has been started, so let's say I want to go on the UI part, and what I want to do is like I want to see how many deployments I have done till now, and that you can go and you can see it here. So let's say just now one pending deployment is there, which I have triggered right away, and then we also have this version feature. So let's say the latest deployment happened at October 19 at 9:06 p.m. So you can directly go on this publish directory, this URL the Arweave provides, and then you can visualize your site here as well directly. So what it helps us in terms of it directly helps us in maintaining the version of your deployed directories, not directories, I would say, that web applications, as well as it also give you multiple information. So let's say I want to go and see what happened during my deployment when I deployed using the ArGo. So you can go and you can see those details here as well. So those are the functionalities which we have provided. Now let's say you came on the site and you wanted to deploy your site which was deployed on the previous configuration. So that also we provide, and the moment you will go here, you will see, hey, so this is the package manager I have used, or you can change the package manager and then go and hit deploy. Again, it is so we just wanted our developers to have an easy life on the ArGo. So that is, by keeping that in mind, we developed the entire feature. Now, there is very interesting feature which we wanted to show you guys is there is a feature called members. So let's say there is someone XYZ. So let's say I'm inviting myself now. This is my Gmail ID. What I do is like I'll send the invite. So what happens is the moment someone joins your team as a team member, so there are a couple of things which we have not introduced here as well, but the moment you will click on send, that feature is still there in alpha 1.0, and the user email will receive the invitation from the ArGo side, which states like join this organization. And also there is one more feature. So let's say I want to create my own private organization, which I do not want to share it with other members. So what you have to do is you have to come here. You say this is private Prashant's organization. Go here, create your organization, save it, and here you are with your private organization. You can go and deploy here, and you can also do invitation for those member for your private organization as well. So now coming to the feature which we are trying to bring up in ArGo next release, which will be like having a granular access on part of the GitHub side, which will help us to reduce the risk of security risk. So that we are working on, and soon alpha 2.0, which we are planning to release as early as possible before next month, or most probably in the mid next month. So that will be out, and you will see that GitHub integration. And also one more thing is we did not integrate it yet the wallet part. If you see as a user, so for the Open Web Fellowship, we try to kept everything open so that people can openly come and use ArGo to deploy their React apps, and we do not charge anything to them. So once we cross this Open Web Fellowship, mostly in Alpha 2.0, we'll be putting off-chain wallet integration where we'll monitor how much expenses are there, and then on the basis of the PST holders, we'll be distributing those profit across all our PST holders. So yeah, so this was all about ArGo. I hope we covered most of the things, but yeah, but stay tuned. We have DNS configuration on the place, so where on the fly you can configure your DNS as well. So let's say I want to configure ArGo app live, and instead of seeing the Arweave URL itself, you can directly go and use our ArGo itself directly. Also, we have I don't know. We have around hundreds of features in line. I do not want to take much of time here because if you guys are interested, just hop on our Discord channel. We'll be happy to help you out what we are building on. And also, we have an opportunity open. We have three opportunities currently open, and we'd love community member to join us. Some of community member have already contacted us, and they're working on React side. We are looking someone who can help us. Since we are developers, we are less experienced on type of on-side of business development. We are looking someone who can help us out in reaching Web 2.0 people and asking them to onboard on Arweave so that we can start deploying their application on using ArGo itself. Yeah, amazing. So this is all about it. I hope I haven't taken any time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Prashant. Okay, so yeah, I've got to say, just like watching this ecosystem develop over the last few months has been absolutely incredible. Like the speed at which you guys are developing is unbelievable. It's very hard to believe that basically none of these applications existed just three months ago. It's truly astonishing. So there we go. That's how you build applications on top of Arweave, and that's a whole bunch of community-built tools you can use. I would say maybe not even a fraction of them. Unfortunately, we can't get everyone in a single session, but there's certainly some tools you can use to build your profit-sharing community. If you'd like to know more, we'd love for you to join us on the Arweave Developer Discord server. And if you want to chat to any of the founders there, if you just add an Arweave-someone person on that Discord server, we'll be able to put you in touch with the founders and also, loop you into the Discord servers where you can chat to them at a greater length. So I'd just like to thank again all of the founders that took part in today's presentation. It's just astonishing to see this thing grow. Thanks so much for your time. Can't wait to chat to you on Discord later. Bye, guys.